Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Hyde Park Ninjas talking shop this morning. So, Kale, good morning. How you doing out there?
Doing great, doing great. Ready to rock and roll on this day. How's it going there?
Doing good, man. Weather's nicer than it has been the last few weeks, that's for sure. So it's a good break. So a little bit crisp in the morning, but good right now. So good morning to everyone. Gamas, let's see, we got Dopest crew in the house. Good morning, Master Chick Mathis. Good morning, sir. Thanks for joining us. Is that Michael Kohler, the owner of the Hyde Park Hammer in the house. So, Michael, good morning. Hope you're doing well. All right. So, what do we got on the docket here today?
I just thought we would bounce back and forth, either funny or wild or crazy things that have happened on the martial arts floor or tournaments or competitions. Just maybe some uh, yeah, anything from the funny, the interesting, bizarre, weird, whatever, whatever you got.
Awesome. So, what you're saying is we're not prepared for today, right? And we're gonna fly with
Uh,
it because we're ninjas.
yeah, we're gonna we're just gonna run with it.
Yeah, Dopest crew. We did see the. Actually, I caught it last night late after I got out of classes. Goldsmith was on there with Stosh talking some Spark Tycoon. So I'm really excited for a lot of the stuff coming. It looks, they just keep adding to it, and they're working away. So super excited about that. Eva is in the house. Eva, how you doing?
Yeah, I think we're going to do a quick summary of those, do some quick videos here today on Spark Tycoon and maybe even the new earnings stuff that came out with Upland. So
That was pretty exciting, actually. I'm actually pretty excited about that. We work it day in and day out, so I like the gamification. And I'm not a big gamer, but not a huge gamer. I like to play cards and different things, but I think it's going to be pretty cool. So the people that are working it and not just sitting on their butt spinning in a chair at a desk, watching numbers, I think it's going to be really good. So I'm excited about it. So, but we'll get into that more. We have a couple streams that we've got coming up, designated to that. So we'll be super pumped to talk about that and envision the things to come forward. So I know Shaq Dylan also put a video out yesterday and did a really great job kind of explaining what they had coming out. So I think a lot of people were kind of up in arms when they first seen it come out, that like that sticker shock, but it's not as bad as you think. If you're doing a little bit, you can actually stay right at the same earnings and rewards yield that you always have been at. If you want to do a little bit extra, some of it is a little bit of extra work, but you're going to get a little bit of extra yield, on your investment. So not
yeah.
financial advice, but anyways, all right, let's get back to talking shop here with martial arts this morning. So what have you had any stuff that's happened like funny to you or students without obviously without mentioning any names because I know we know a lot of mutual people, so don't want to put anybody on the spotlight.
Yeah. Yeah. No, actually, I mean, we could probably talk for 3 weeks on all the crazy stuff that's happened, but and funny stories. Yeah. I had a recent one. Had a student, probably about 6 years old, and great, great kid. Just absolutely, love the family, love the kid, and so anyway, they were he had just started to learn how to spar, right? And they had to put in a mouthpiece. Well, when you get a mouthpiece, it's not formed yet, so you got to boil it, and a lot of some of the parents haven't done that before. So this kid just started sparring, and he had not boiled his mouthpiece yet, right? So it was pretty bulky and uncomfortable, but the kid's got to wear it. So his first time sparring, puts on all the gear, and this was just a few weeks ago, and I was like, okay, time to put in the mouthpiece, and so he puts it in, and then immediately just projectile vomits all over me, and right onto my chest, down my uniform, and it's all over him, all over his new gear. It's all over me. I'm sitting there standing in a puddle of it, and I'm just like, we both just stared at each other, didn't know what to do. I ended up picking him up and his mom came and got him, and then I tiptoed away, and my staff members came in and cleaned it up. It was, and then I and then so yeah, that was just a few weeks ago. So that was one of many. That was probably the worst like throw up vomit one. I mean, just right on me. Just couldn't have. His aim was dead on.
I've had the same thing happen with the mouthpieces. We had a kid and somehow had gotten a adult size mouthpiece and he kept telling me he couldn't put it in his mouth, it didn't feel comfortable. I said, you got to put it in, you got to aspire. And same exact thing. He started gagging and he made it to the bathroom. I got a little bit luckier than you did. It
Okay.
sounds like I've never, not in martial arts, not that I remember all the years. I've never had anybody puke on me, which is good. I have had several times with our little Cubs class where
Mm.
the kids get a little bit excited, or in some cases, it was actually they were afraid to raise their hand and ask for permission to go to the bathroom. So as we were doing our movements, they just peed. And, when you got a class going on, everybody sees it, obviously. I think I've had one time over the years, so I've had this happen several times where we were able to hide it and disguise it without the kids even knowing.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I saw it happen, and luckily it was in the back row. And I sent one of the assistants over. I said, "Go help Johnny." His name wasn't Johnny, but um, so they go back there and they're getting them cleaned up. And I brought all the kids in and we huddled up and we did a word of the week and, and some mat talk, and nobody knew what was going on. It was hilarious. But
And
it was funny because that was the first time we were actually able to cover it up. And one of the parents had complimented on it, how great of a job, nobody even knew, and the kid wasn't as embarrassed, So
yeah.
I've never had that happen to myself personally, but yeah, it's happened in classes several times. And we did have one. I know you've been to our academy, so in our academy, there's some times of the day where we've got two classes going on, and we have the far side, and there was a kid training on the other side. I was on the main side. I had one of my assistants was teaching a class on the second side, and one of the kids got sick and he was going to puke, and he was running as fast as he could, past the parents sitting area by the carpet, and he almost made it. And before he made it, projectile all over the shelf where we keep the bags for the kids. So there were like three sets of bags that got puked on, and he just didn't make it. And I felt so bad for the kid, and he had his gear on and everything, and his chest guard was loaded with, peas and carrots from dinner the night before. It was crazy. That was
Oh man, that's a good one. Well, and just so for those watching the Cubs or as 3, 4, and 5-year-olds in our martial arts classes, so the little ones. So have you ever do you know what mystery poo is?
yeah, that was the next story I was thinking of actually, because I've had a couple incidents. One was in my adult class, and I still don't know to this day if it was an adult or if it was a kid in the class before.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't think it was my kids' class before because it was my black belt kids, and most of them don't poo on the floor. I've never had that happen. So, or maybe it was from a class before and it just got missed. I don't know, but we were sparring. This was in the adult class. We were sparring. We had our gear on, and I thought one of the adults maybe had an accident. The kid was a teenage kid, maybe purple belt, and he I could see and I can smell something on his feet. I could see it on his feet, and I kinda tried to give him the out, I tapped him on the back. I said, "Do you need a quick sip of water?" Like he would go clean himself up if that was the case. So, the poor kid, man, he had to be like 17, 18. So he's walking over to the water fountain, and he's leaving a trail behind him because it was on his
Oh.
foot. And, I was watching it happen, live time, and he's sniffing. He looks he looks down at his foot and he's like, "Oh, man." It was a disaster. I felt so bad for the kid. So we had to, sanitize the whole floor. I moved the whole adult sparring ring over into one square. We had to maximize the space. It was a disaster. But that was a good one. We had another one that I had a young high school girl. She's probably like 16, 17. She was working with us at the time. This is actually in Atlanta, Georgia too. Um, so there was it was the Cubs class, Tiny Tigers at the time, and one of the kids must have let some poop balls come out, and the girl didn't realize it was a poop ball. She thought it was a Skittle, and
Oh
she
no.
picked it up. It was a purple Skittle. I remember it like it was yesterday, and she picked it up, and when she realized what it was, she almost puked.
Oh yeah, I would
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, so
Oh my gosh.
that's the 2 most memorable, like, impressionable poop stories, and those were actually both in Atlanta. I've had a couple here in the Carolinas over the years too, but usually it doesn't turn out as bad as, like, poop spreading across the floor, so that's a rare case. I've seen that happen once in 25 years or something, longer.
Yeah. I don't those are some pretty good ones. We just a couple of our instructors that have been with us for a long time. They know they know that it's about once, maybe twice a year. There and it's usually that 3, 4, 5-year-old class, and you just have we just call it mystery poo I tend to have a scent like sixth sense about it. I can just I've spotted it from across the whole mat. Like I'll just look at my instructor and say, "I need you to go clean up that mystery poo," and he's like, "How do you even see that?" I just know. I just know, and it's only like once a year, so but it's really funny. Um, I'll so I guess this has turned into just bodily fluid, pee, poop, and vomit stories. Because the next one I had was actually myself cutting cutting weight for the first time, and that was quite the experience. There's actually four of us. We were there was four of us fighting. I was 18 years old at the time, and it was all four of ours first fight. Okay, first MMA fight, right? We'd all done martial arts and competed, but actually getting in the octagon, in the cage, and fighting. So we went through this whole 3 month training camp, and I was cutting weight down to 145 pounds, which was a lot of weight. I had to cut about 24 pounds in 6 days, actually, and I did that very poorly my first time. Did did not do it very smart at all. But I made it. I made weight, and we all made weight. And then we decide, because we're all starving, we've been dieting and haven't eaten food in like 2.5 days, and we're just absolutely starving, right? So we decide, let's go celebrate at Golden Corral, and that was the one and only time I've ever eaten at a Golden Corral. And if you guys don't know what it is, it's just kind of a really gross buffet. To be honest, it's just I don't know. There's kids. There's hands everywhere. Just I don't know. And the food's pretty greasy. Then we go and we just and eat as much as we possibly can. We just stuff our faces, and your stomach shrinks when you're cutting weight, and it's not used to what you normally take. So we all eat. We're sitting there, and about 10 minutes after we finish, all four of us had to puke. And so the bathroom was full, so we were all out in the front, or like the side of the building of Golden Corral, puking in the grass, all four of us. It was a nightmare. Then we had to fight the next day, but um, it was I just remember all four of us sitting there like this was a bad idea, and but it was a fun time. We had a great. I ended up winning that fight, and everybody else did as well. But uh, that was that was the first time cutting weight experience, which was not great.
So did you guys go back to Golden Corral for the victory dinner?
I've never been back.
Man,
I've
the
never
best
been
thing on
back
that
to Golden
menu is
Corral.
gummy bears, I think. They have gummy bears at the ice cream bar. It's like the best thing on the menu. Oh,
I would agree.
God,
I
I
would
haven't been to
agree.
one of those, and God, it's been a long time, probably like
Mm.
2000, maybe maybe further back.
Yeah. Yep.
It was always easier to go to the Chinese buffet. Usually the food was a lot better, so
Yep.
oh man, that's crazy. We had one with an adult. Yeah, we were teaching a classic. This was in Atlanta too, and it was It was a male, a guy student. He was a little bit older, and every we were doing front kicks down the floor. We were just warming up, and we started hearing this noise. And every time the guy did a kick, he would let gas go loud, and you could hear it all the way down. All the way down the floor. Have you ever seen who's that comedian? He was in that movie, The Tooth Fairy. Uh, who's the comedian that was in that movie, The Tooth?
The Rock, or no, Vin Diesel.
No, not Vin Diesel.
No,
Uh,
I thought that was the one.
the Tooth Fairy. God, what the heck is that guy's name?
I swear that was it.
The cable guy, Larry the Cable Guy. Have you ever seen him?
Um, yeah.
Larry the Cable Guy. He's a funny comedian. He was part of Jeff Foxworthy's group back in the day, and he did this skit on his grandmother having the walking farts. And pretty much this is what it was, but it was like the kicking farts. Every time he kicked, he let it go, and everybody that was in the line drills, they were just dying laughing in the back. And I actually wasn't teaching that class. I was assisting, or I may have been taking the class, and it was Mr. Master Lee was teaching at the time, and he was the only one that was barely holding it together, and you could tell he was just trying to laugh, and it was so funny though. We had
Oh
some
man.
good stories
Uh,
in Atlanta. I personally have not had any issues like that. I think the only time I ever got sick related to martial arts was just from training hard, just
yeah.
training and throwing up. And then the first year I competed at world championships, I was so nervous. I had got to the ring and the nerves were just setting in, and I had to bolt to the bathroom. I made it to the bathroom and everything, but that was the only time I remember getting sick at like a martial arts event
Mm.
just from the nerves. But yeah, it does happen. Does happen.
Um, I guess one not as not as gross as I had one of my instructors, adult instructor, and he was teach lined up the it was an adult class, thank goodness, lined up an adult class, and by when he does he does like a this first movement, right, and a pair of his wife's underwear fell out of his pants leg, out right right out right out in front. So obviously, it was in the laundry, and it just like dryer sheets and stuff get caught up in there. That's kind of what had happened, right? It just got stuck up in the pants leg, and does moves, psh, and the underwear flies out. And man, he was so cool about it. He just played like, goes, well, that's awkward. That just happened, and he's like, we're just gonna move on from here. And he just threw him to the side
That's too funny.
and
Was
kept
this a
teaching.
student or an instructor?
This was an instructor. Yeah. So I'll share with you after stream. But yeah, he's a awesome guy, great, absolutely great instructor. That was just so funny. I was standing right there. It was so funny.
Yeah, we'll get the fabric softeners every once in a while that pop out of the clothes. We get that, so at least we know they're cleaning their geese, which is good.
Yeah,
So, but
yeah. To see that underwear fly out, I was just yeah, it was so good.
I think I've got a couple apparel stories. Actually, one happened to me. It was the year, I think it was in Little Rock, Arkansas, one of the tournaments. Trying to think, I think it was President Clinton at the time had actually spoke at the tournament. He used to speak at the tournament back in the days, and I was helping out at the front tables. We were doing check-in, and I was already dressed in my uniform, and there was a child that was coming down the big giant hallway at the place we were at. I forget where that was held. It was a pretty big center though. And the little boy had gotten a piece of pizza from the pizza shop, and he was running, not paying attention, paper plate in his hand, tripped, fell, and the pizza flew across the table right on my jacket. So,
Mm,
mind you, I hadn't competed yet, and I was a ranked competitor at the time. That was the only uniform I had with me, and it was stained with
mm.
pizza sauce, and that was the worst. I ended up having to buy a uniform. So I had, I think it was my Charado pants at the time, the nice uniform that looks crisp.
Oh yeah.
And then I had this old uniform for whatever they had. It was just something that they were selling there, so it was horrible, but I remember that like it was yesterday. So I always, to this day, and I tell my students this all the time too, is when I go to tournaments or anything, I always bring two uniforms now. I never leave without two uniforms because of that, whether it's karate, jujitsu, and it's kind of
Yep.
stuck with me.
It's good. Yeah, good rule to have.
I had another one back in the day. I was probably like 16. I was getting ready to go to a tournament in Ontario, Canada, and I was responsible for ironing my uniforms and everything. I did that. And in Kung Fu, we had these. The first art I started in was Kung Fu, and I started competing. And the sashes are a lot longer than your typical karate belt, especially back then. They were really long, so we would have to iron them. It would take forever. And I was ironing my uniform, and the phone rang, and this is before we had cell phones, so I actually had to go get the phone, and I was getting directions to where we were going because I didn't know where we were going, and I forgot the iron was on my pants.
Oh,
So I realized it when I started smelling something, and I ran over and picked it up, but it was too late. There was an iron stain on it. Luckily, it was like high enough on my butt that my jacket covered it just enough. But I always remember that stain, and you never leave an iron alone. But I think that was my only other uniform one. I had another one I was thinking of with I don't know if it was at a tournament or if it was a uniform one with a malfunction. I've had pants rip. Oh, the bungee cord. Have you
the
ever had any
bungee cord.
incidents with bungee cords?
Well, I mean, yes, yes, I have.
So I used to do a ton of training with bungee cords for kick speed, and I was
Okay.
doing some power kicking the one day, and I guess the Velcro had kind of worn a little bit, and I had it tied to the bathroom door handle at the academy I was training at, and as I was kicking, it gave way and snapped me in the butt. I had a black and blue mark on my butt for like a week at least. I couldn't believe it. It hurt so bad from the bungee cord.
Hmm. That
It was a
yeah, that
self-inflicted wound.
um I got yeah, I got a good apparel one. We were so I've been a ref now for about a year actually. Since I retired from fighting. I've been learning to become a ref. And so at the last this was a few months ago. Um MMA fights in East Tennessee are interesting. You get all kinds of characters. So we have just some awesome talent, and then some not so awesome talent, and some people from the backwoods, people from their basements want to just get out into the cage and fight. So this guy shows up for an actual MMA fight, made weight and everything. They call your name out. Your music plays. Right, he comes running out. He comes running out. He's in his underwear. So you're supposed to be, wear fight shorts, and everything, and is it literally in they're like whitey tighties, like gray. They're like gray, but like whitey tighty kind of style underwear. And the guy gets it there, and we got to check him in, right? And I wasn't checking him in, and another guy wasn't. He's like, dude, what are you doing? It's like, where's your fight shorts? He goes, well, I didn't have any, so I figured I just gotta do this. And he's like, I don't know what to do here. I've never had this happen. And you know, we always check for mouthpiece, and then you got to say, you got your cup, and everybody just, says yes, got my cup. So it's honestly verbal. We don't actually, check to see if there's a cup. And so, anyways, he turns out later we found out he was not wearing a cup, which is, but he said he was. Goes out there within 10 seconds, gets kicked right in the nuts, right? Just gets, and so he's in his underwear. He gets dropped. He actually gets back up, and they start the fight again. I'm not kidding you. 10 seconds later, gets hit in the nuts again, second time.
Was
It
it done on
just dropped.
purpose?
I don't know. I think the other dude didn't want to fight a guy in his underwear. Um, so he just wanted to get disqualified or something. And that was just the funniest fight to me. It lasted about 30 seconds. He got kicked in the nuts twice, couldn't continue. He's in his underwear in the middle of, in front of all these hundreds of people. Oh, I'm like, man, it's only in East Tennessee can you get that.
Man, that's too funny. I think I've got only one more apparel, and this was actually a personal one. It was a blunder on my part. Actually, I just told the kids in class about this. We were talking about being like proactive and being prepared, for classes. And uh, I was on the way to a instructor training, and we were all meeting at one school. And I always keep an extra uniform at the house. And at the time, my wife was training as well. And I didn't pay attention to which uniform I grabbed out of our bedroom, and I grabbed her uniform. and she's a
Mm.
lot shorter than me. And I got to the training center and I pulled the uniform out. I was like, "Oh man, I got the wrong uniform." And I had to wear it, you know, it's all I had there. So it was so short. It looked like I was wearing capri pants. And the uniform sleeves, you know, they're way up here. And it was so I was so embarrassed, but just trained
Uh,
hard and tried to forget it happened. I
that's
just it was
funny.
funny, I just told that story actually at the school with the kids. I always try to share, you know, things that like mistakes I've made so they don't do it, hopefully. So hopefully it helps someone.
Oh yeah.
But I think that's about it on apparel ones. We've had some weapons incidents. I remember one, we had a friend that was opening up they were making weapons, nunchucks, and I believe sticks too. So we were using some of their weapons and trialing them, and we were doing nunchucks in class, and it was an advanced class, and one of the kids had a set. And as we're doing I think we were just doing like triangle swings or double triangles, and all of a sudden you see half of a nunchuck go flying back and hit a parent in the audience.
Oh.
Luckily, it was a safety one, but it just dismantled, and that was a funny one to the school. Everybody was just dying laughing. Luckily, it was like a, you know, a Nerf type material because we used the safety ones in class. 'Cause I know back in the old days we had the real nunchucks. I was eh, I worked in a warehouse, a carpet warehouse as a kid, so we had lots of big bags of foam, you know, which are great because I would practice my kicks on them, and I would occasionally pull out my nunchucks and practice. And me and my dad, we actually worked at the same carpet factory together. He was in the sales area, and I was in the stock department. And I wasn't supposed to be practicing nunchucks in the back room. And I had real nunchucks that I had just got, and they were these cool dragon chucks that looked like diamonds on them, but they really weren't. And I was going to town, and I struck a bag, and it came back and hit me in the head. And man, I split my eye open, had to get stitches.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I remember my dad was so mad at me for that.
Oh man, that yeah, I've got that's a pretty bad one. I don't have a I'd have to get stitches, but definitely hit myself in the head um multiple multiple times. Um
I always tell the kids, keep your hands up anytime we're practicing, even with the foam ones. And I tell them all the time, I said, I'm telling you, keep your hands up. I've been hit with them before. And then there's always those couple kids, they don't really care. They got their hands down, they're not paying attention, and whack, they get hit in the head. It's like, I told you so.
um well, I guess you know there I've always there's always the good old, hit in the groin stories, because I've been holding boards and holding targets. And I man, I don't know if the kid was 4 or 5 at the time, but such a little kid, just I wasn't paying attention, and, he got way too close and just he was supposed to kick the pad, kicked me right in the I mean, just dropped me to my knees, and I'm like, like, you wanna throw up, and, the parents were like, the kids are all freaking out, and I told one of my instructors, like, "Just keep the class going." I had to crawl to the side of the room, and I just had to sit there for about 2 or 3 minutes and collect myself, while all the 4 and 5-year-olds are running around. That was that was quite a while ago, but yeah, I definitely have a few good stories of like that, so
I've been kicked in the legs before. We did have one of our tall, we had a really tall guy that was working with us at one point, and he got hit by one of the 4-year-olds really good, and he was in a lot of pain. And it was the same thing. It was like a board break, and the kid completely missed. He was way too close and crushed him. And man, I remember the look on his face. I felt so bad for him. I think the only one I had recently that, you know, with me getting hurt working with a younger kid, I think this kid was about 5 years old, was I don't know if you remember back when we did the video, we did a stream with Balake on the gaming. And the day before that, the night before that, I got a bloody nose. In the afternoon, I was rolling around with the kid, and he was kind of like a real hyper spazzy kid. And he like Supermaned at me and headbutted me right in the nose.
Oh, oh, man.
It was rough. I had a brand new uniform on to a white one. The blood never did come out. I peroxide the heck out of that thing. Oh, we
Oh,
got
man.
Maui in the house. Hey, Maui.
Well, that's man, I got tons of stories that come up, but those were some tops. I don't know. You got anything else to top it off, or
Man, I'm sure I'm trying to think of the first time I tell this story all the time to my leadership class, the kids that are learning how to instruct. So back in the old days, we didn't really have like a leadership class, per se to help you get comfortable teaching. So my first day of teaching classes was a little bit different. So I had the instructor that was running the school. I would help him out on Fridays because I got out of my other job a little bit early, and so I was going in just to assist him. This is Cubs class. We had about 24 or 25 kids in that class, which is a lot of kids at that age. And so I was going into a system and I got there and the doors to the academy were locked. And there was a note on the door that said, go next door to the tanning salon and get the key. So I got the key and I was teaching classes. So I was a pretty hardcore competitor at the time and I was extremely serious about martial arts. And so I was in there with all these 4 and 5 year old kids. And
okay?
the little girl that was like the senior student that day, she just spun around on her spot the whole time. She was super hyper and excited, and I was like, "Oh my god, what did I get myself into?" And then I had one of the other kids, he was a pretty shy kid for the most part, and she had raised her hand, super polite, and she asked if she could go to the bathroom, and I said, "Yeah, sure." And she went to the bathroom. So she was in there for a little bit, and then, I was teaching, I think we were just going through like some basic forms with the kids, some basics, and she comes out of the bathroom and she had no clothes on. So, I mean, no underwear, no nothing. She had left her clothes in the bathroom, and the way that the academy was structured there was, like a front door where the parents would sit, and then it was the floor, and then the bathrooms were on the back side. So the mom saw this from where she was sitting. Man, she could have outrun Hussein Bolt that day. She ran so fast across the floor. I didn't know what was going on, and I looked back, and little girl had no clothes on, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And this, like a 5 year old kid just running around. It was chaos. So I got done with class that day and I was like, "Man, I don't know if I'm cut out for this teaching kids stuff." That was my first exposure to teaching, so it was nuts.
That that yeah, that's a pretty tough first class. I remember when I started instructing, with sometimes with our advanced students, we call it fighting stance, and sometimes with the beginner students, call it sparring stance, right? So I just was teaching class, and I just mid sentence, I couldn't decide if I was going to say sparring or fighting stance. I said originally about in your farting stance, and I did not do that. Like it was a total accident, and oh my gosh, everybody laughed at that. That was so. Uh, and I mean I was pretty young, so I was embarrassed. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just did that.
Yeah, that kind
Um,
of stuff seems to happen a lot, actually. You catch yourself doing it. Usually not that bad, but you never know what comes out.
that was a pretty good. That was a pretty funny one.
Ooh, I think
Trying to-
that's all the most memorable stories I could really think of. I'm sure I know there's been some other funny stuff over the years.
oh yeah, there's so many. Those are just the ones that kind of easily roll off the top of the head. So yeah, if you guys got any martial arts stories or anything funny or anything, drop them in the comments below. Would like to know some funny stories.
We'll have to maybe next week we'll pull up some funny clips. There has been some really funny martial arts clips over the years. We'll have to pull some of those out of the graveyard here and share. There's some pretty like funny stuff. So
Yeah, I'm sure we can find some good stuff. All right, guys. Well,
cool.
I
Well, I
think that does
think
it for today. We'll just a fun, relaxed show today. Hopefully, you enjoyed some funny stories. Let us know if you got any funny stories yourself. And tune in Thursday. We got a stream Thursday. I'm traveling this week, so not 100% sure what the streams are going to look like, but we'll definitely get something out to you guys.
yeah, we'll have some sort of fun. We'll get into some kind of trouble, I'm sure. And if everything works out right, we might be able to get some footage, maybe from the event going on in Florida. I'm not sure what the schedule looks like. I know you won't even have that till you guys get there, but maybe you can share a nice picture of the beach or some jiu-jitsu action if there's any going on yet Thursday, and let everybody kind of experience that and see a little bit.
Yeah, I'll definitely try to get some good stuff for you guys.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, everybody have a great rest of your Tuesday, and we will look forward to seeing you next week. We will have a Thursday show, and we are doing a Super Bowl Sunday show as well. So stay tuned for that this week.
All right, later, guys.